Hello my friends, welcome back to my channel. Today, we're doing one of my favorite things, which is talking about books. These are gonna be all the books I read in the month of April, and then also the books that I want to read in the month of May. Disclaimer, this is probably gonna be a long video. I read a lot of books in the month of April, and I think it's because I'm practicing reading again. So because I'm reading more, my brain is processing words faster. I don't know if that's a thing, but I feel like it's a thing because I've been reading like way faster than I used to. So there's been some days where I can literally read like 2 books, sometimes 2.5 books in one day, if they're like shorter books. So anyways, quite a bit to get through, so might as well just get into it. So the first book that I read at the very beginning of April was the book In My Dreams I Hold a Knife, and it's by Ashley Winstead. This one I gave a 3.75 out of 5. When it comes to thrillers, I feel like I'm a little bit tougher on them. Like rom-coms, I'll give a 4 or a 5, like no problem. But thrillers, like you really have to hook me and you have to really get me with the twists and turns, because I've been watching Criminal Minds for years now, okay? So like, I'm basically a profiler. So you have to really like get me. So this one I gave a 3.75. I didn't want to put it down. It reminded me of like a 2000s like scary movie. It was like a college-based thriller, and it was a dual timeline, so it was like 10 years before and then current day, and then the ending ended up being less predictable than normal. So like I kind of had an idea that's where it was going, but I kept questioning myself because there was enough characters where it wasn't overwhelming, but enough characters to make you question any predictions that you might have had. There was a lot of twists and turns. I didn't like the characters at all. Like not a single one of the characters did I enjoy. So that's the only thing, like, that's probably why I gave it a 3.75, because like, I want to enjoy somebody. I want to be rooting for somebody, and I didn't do that with that book. Okay, the next book I'm kind of surprised about. This one was Golden Girl by Elin Hilderbrand, and this one was, I gave it a 3 out of 5. I have read some of Elin Hilderbrand's books before. One of them was the Summer of '69. I loved it. And then I read her Winter in Paradise series. This one was completely different. And without giving spoilers, it's hard to explain why I didn't enjoy the book, but it was like a heavy topic and there was no way anybody was going to win in the end. So it was kind of like I was just reading a book, knowing that the ending wasn't going to be good, you know? So it was like, I just couldn't get past that. I really enjoyed all the characters in the book. The writing style was really good. It kept me hooked. I just, you know, the whole book that it's not going to turn out great. So it's like, you know. Anyways, next one I read was In a Holidays. Because the thriller and then Golden Girl was like really heavy, I felt like I needed like a palate cleanser, if you will. So I read In a Holidays by Christina Lauren. I had read The Unhoneymooners in March by her and loved her. So I really wanted to read this one. It was a Christmas rom-com book with a little bit of spice. I don't think that I should have read it so close to The Unhoneymooners because my expectations were kind of high. This was more like a cheesy Hallmark movie, whereas her other one was more like a higher budget rom-com. I really liked the characters in the book, but the concept, although it was unique, it was just kind of like funky to me. And I felt like the ending left you wanting more. So I wouldn't not recommend it, but it wasn't like top of my list here. Okay, the next book, Where the Crawdads Sing by Delia Owens. I had put off this book for way too long because I kept hearing hype about it and I figured that it wasn't going to live up to the hype. Wrong. I usually am the type that I need like a fast-paced book. This book was incredibly slow. And it was, I don't even know, it was enchanting. Like the storytelling and the character, that like the main character, just enchanting. It was just remarkably written. I wanted to absorb every single word of this book. I didn't feel the need to rush through it. I probably am gonna reread it again in like 6 months. I cannot wait to see the movie. I hope they do it justice. Good start having a Taylor Swift song, excellent. I just don't think there are words. If you've been thinking about reading that book, read it. Okay, the next one that I read was A Flicker in the Dark by Stacey Willingham. This one I gave a 3.75 out of 5. And again, remember, I'm a little tougher on thrillers. This one I kept seeing pop up on my Instagram, like not only from book accounts that I follow, but also from like friends. And it was like a really good episode of Criminal Minds. And without giving spoilers, basically the premise that you get right from the beginning is that there's Chloe, and she's the daughter of a convicted serial killer, and she's a psychologist. And I guessed the ending right at the beginning of the book, but it was another one of those books where there was enough characters to make me question myself, so that's good. So I kind of was keep guessing. I did not like Chloe, the main girl. I also, I feel like I could get in trouble saying this, but there was a pain killer addiction happening that I felt was completely unnecessary. I'm totally guessing here, but I have a feeling maybe the author did it to take away Chloe's credibility. But in my opinion, women, we already have lower credibility. And there's like, it's Chloe and then a bunch of dudes in this book. So I felt like her credibility is already pretty low. I didn't understand the painkiller thing. I just didn't get it. So anyways, it's super creepy. It's perfect if you're a true crime fan. And if you like Criminal Minds, you'll like it. So anyways, that's that. Next one. The Things We Cannot Say by Kelly Rimmer. This book is definitely going in my top 5 of this year. At this point, I feel like my top 5 is going to have 18 books because I feel like I keep saying that. But it was just phenomenal. I had goosebumps during this book. I was literally sobbing at the end of this book to the point where I almost could not read the words anymore. There's 2 storylines, and both of the women are just amazing, and the development of the women is just amazing. There's sentences that I read in this book that I feel like are going to stick with me forever, and I just am heartbroken to hear the struggle and pain that people went through in World War II outside of what I already know existed. So I obviously have an understanding of World War II and what went on from history classes and things like that and what I read, but this was a whole other culture's experience that I totally didn't know about. So it was just heartbreaking, but I feel like it's necessary. If you have an air of entitlement about you, if you think that you've suffered in any way, shape, or form, please read this book. That's all I'm gonna say. All right, the next one. This one, because that book was so heavy, I needed a rom-com palate cleanser. So I went with It Happened One Summer by Tessa Bailey. This one, I gave a 3.5 out of 5. This book was spicy. It was steamy. It was a standard plot. It was a situation of like, spoiled girl, daddy cuts her off, sends her off to the middle of nowhere. She falls in love with a dude. You know, it was like typical Hallmark situation. But I really enjoyed the depth of the character because although she is like a spoiled, entitled, rich girl, she has a lot of depth and she's not like typically selfish like it's usually casted. So I really, really enjoyed her. Apparently, reading at the end in the acknowledgement section, or maybe it was like an author's note or something, the author said she based this on, let me look at the name, Alexa Rose from Schitt's Creek. Now I want to watch that show. I had never watched it. I watched a couple episodes like here and there, but like never paid attention. Now I want to watch the show because apparently the main girl in this is based off of Alexa Rose, and I just loved her. Like, just loved her. The chemistry between the two in the romance was good too. So, and that was like, it's a series. That was book number 1. I'm also like in love with her sister, who apparently is going to be in book number 2. So I can't wait to read that. Okay, you guys, the next one. Listen, if you know me in real life, you know how much I love Mariah Carey. Okay, so I got to read the memoir, The Meaning of Mariah Carey by Mariah Carey and Michaela Angela Davis. Okay, I couldn't give it a full 5 stars, which just based on my love for Mariah Carey, I wanted to do it, but I gave it a 4. I know that it's probably incredibly difficult to recall memories from a long time ago because I barely can do it. And I also know some of these memories, she admits she kind of like shoved down. So probably recalling them was in some way, you know, therapeutic for her, but it just got repetitive. She said a lot of the things over and over and over again. And I don't want to fault anyone for, you know, having to retell their struggles, because if you have a platform, do it. But at the same time, just as a reader, it was getting repetitive. I almost had put the book down, which for me to say that is a big deal, okay? But I stuck through it, and then it ended up being really worth it. The childhood section at the beginning was kind of the part where it was just like repetitive, and it was jumping all over the place, which confuses me, and that's a me thing probably. But then once I got into the marriage with Tommy Mottola, and then like more of like her career details and all of that stuff, it just took me. There's one section where I swear her family was trying to pull like a Britney situation, so you'll know when you read that. I really enjoyed like living through all the chapters of her life. I felt like I was like backstage getting a view of TV moments that I've witnessed, and then I was even like on YouTube like looking up those iconic moments because I just wanted to like see them again. So every Mariah Carey fan should be reading that. Even if you're not a Mariah Carey fan and you've been like borderline, do I hate her, do I love her, read it, because it'll give you more respect. Okay, the next one was The Water Dancer by Ta-Nehisi Coates, and I probably pronounced that wrong. This one I gave it a 3.5 out of 5. I feel awful giving it anything less than a 5-star because I feel like the story itself is so important, but I just wasn't gripped by it, so I just had to go with the 3.5. And this was a weird situation where the first half of the book, I was completely like trapped into the story. And then the second half of the book, I didn't understand what was happening. Like, I didn't know why we were continuing. Like, it was just bizarre. But it was, the part that I did not enjoy is that there's a very hard, awful, real struggle happening in this book. It's based on slavery, but there's like a fantasy element that the author is bringing into it. And I felt like, to me, it was kind of like taking away a little bit, and I don't know what the goal was there, and I probably missed it. It's probably a me thing, but as a reader, I just didn't get it. The next book, Woman on Fire by Lisa Barr. This one I gave it a 4.5 out of 5 stars. This one is a mystery, and it's a mystery that spans multiple generations, and it was chaotic. In a good way. Like, chaotic usually drives me nuts, and jumping timelines and characters drives me crazy. But this one, I didn't get lost with the main timelines, but I did get a little lost with some of the side stories that were happening. But she was able to iron it all out in the end. The characters were so complex, and they were so strong. I really, really, really enjoyed them. And there was the mystery part. Multiple characters had major passion and investment in the mystery. So it was just amazing reading like why everybody was so, you know, involved in the situation. And it was like a World War II situation. So World War II is like the genre that I just go to when it comes to reading. So it was cool how there was like modern day, but it was looking back on past generations, World War II, family secrets, all that good stuff. Definitely a must read. Okay, the next one. I felt awful writing this review, but this was The Wife Upstairs by Rachel Hawkins. I gave it a 2 out of 5, which honestly I think might be generous, because I would honestly even say it was like a 1.5, maybe. I don't know why people liked this book so much. After I wrote my review, I went on the other reviews and people like really liked it. There were some like me that did not, so I guess it's one of those you gotta try for yourself. But I just felt like it was like a major miss. The story itself was incredibly unique. Like, I thought the idea of the story was really cool. However, the execution of the story was very confusing because they add in an extra point of view that I felt like took away all of the suspense from the situation. Because having it there, I felt like it took away a twist or turn that could have been introduced later in the book. So then I kind of like knew what was going on the whole time, and it was just bizarre, and I hated all of the characters. Even by the time I get to the end, like, hated all of them. So it was really quick, and it was an easy, not heavy read. So if you're like traveling and you just want kind of like a basic thriller, that one would be an option. This next one. The Great Alone by KRISTIN Hanna. KRISTIN Hanna, I have now read 3 of her books. We're going to do another one after. She's going to be the one that if somebody's like, hey, who should I read a book from? It's going to be KRISTIN Hanna. She's unbelievable. And I've read 3 of her books now. They're completely different, but they're completely, like, they trap you and your heart is like sucked out of your chest. This one was The Great Alone. And I literally get transformed by her. That's why I think I like her books so much. This one was set in the 70s and also in Alaska. Both things I've always wanted to visit. The characters in this book are just unbelievable. One of them is like a younger girl, but she's incredibly mature for her age. And there's like a mother-daughter dynamic that's happening, and it's like heartbreaking and inspiring all at once. The entire book is just so well balanced. It's 400 pages, but I didn't want it to ever end. And it balanced like love and heartbreak and hope all at the same time so well. And like she takes things away from you and then gives back to you. And it was another one that I was like sobbing, and I didn't know if I was even going to be able to finish it because I was crying so hard. Like when you get to the end, it's just like, I don't know. Well, I'm a hot mess, so you might be perfect and have no problem. But just trigger warnings on that one though, that there's PTSD and abuse that happens in that book. So just, again, trigger warning there. The next one, I needed something like fun after that. So I read The Lion's Den by Catherine St. John. So I had seen this, again, popping up on my Instagram, mostly from book accounts. I didn't see any like personal friends had read it. I literally was wondering what was wrong with me because I didn't understand why everybody was like, this is the best book ever written, because the first half of the book, I was like, something's going on with me. Maybe not even the first half, maybe the first third. All of the characters seemed like super shallow and super like underdeveloped, and I was just annoyed with all of them. It was basically, it's like a murder mystery that happens on a yacht, and it's like a girls trip, and all of the girls are just like annoying. But then once you hit like probably that third or halfway mark, she starts like punching you in the face with what's actually happening. So there's like a bunch of stuff going on that you didn't know was happening. And so once you get to that point, it's like this chaotic situation and you're just getting hit all at once with all of these things, and they're just like mind-blowing. At least they were to me. So I wish that she had like streamlined the beginning. I don't think there was a need to like focus on the beginning the way she did, and then give me more of that middle part and the ending, because that was phenomenal. So I gave that one a 4 out of 5. I don't know if I said that, because by the end she redeemed herself. Okay, the next one is Lock Every Door by Riley Sager, and I never know if I'm saying that name right. This one I gave a 4 out of 5. This one, it was a wild ride, okay? It was set in current times, but it's in a very creepy old building that was built in, I don't remember if it was like the 1800s or 1900s. It has like creepy like culty vibes in the building. There's like creepy characters that are going around. There's like a mystery that's happening in the building. Just creepville, okay? It was super unpredictable. There was like twists and turns coming at you from all different directions. So you didn't know if this was like a cult situation, if it was like a serial killer situation. You just didn't know, and you were invested the entire time. There was a major section of this book though, and this is why I didn't give it like a 4.5, or I wouldn't have given it a 5. I would have probably given it a 4.5. I gave it a 4 because there's like this major part of the book that at the end is completely unresolved. And so I was like, well, he must be doing a sequel. But then I Googled it, and this book was written in 2019, and there's no plans for another book. So I'm like, what's happening there? But then I remembered that his last book was like that. So I don't know if that's just a him thing. He likes to just like leave you guessing, basically. So anyways, that one was I would definitely recommend that book, especially if you like creepy vibes. All right, this next one. An American Marriage by Tayari Jones, and I don't know if I pronounced that correct. This one I gave a 4 out of 5. This book was just soul crushing. Like, you knew from the beginning that there was not going to be a happy ending. I think the author did his or her best, I'm guessing it's a her, at wrapping it up as well as she could, given the situation. I also enjoyed that the author let the characters have substantial flaws and it felt like really real. Like she didn't hold back on dark thoughts or feelings that the characters might have been having in the situation. Basically, this book is about, without giving spoilers, a man who is wrongly convicted of a crime and how that affects his life. And again, it was heartbreaking. It was gut-wrenching heartbreaking, because you're reading this and seeing, even if his conviction is overturned, there's a ripple effect that happened to this man's life that is not going to be corrected. So it was hard to read, but it was a good read. Okay, so then the next one I read, this one I'm just upset about, you guys. This one was Little Fires Everywhere by Celeste Ng. I don't know if I'm saying that right. Last name is NG. I gave it a 3 out of 5 because the story was good. This is a TV show. I kind of want to watch the TV show because I just felt like the pacing of this book was really weird. It was like sections were really slow, and then it would be like a bunch of things were thrown at you at one time. I really connected with one of the characters, but the rest of the characters were really super flat. And it was weird because the character that I connected with was like a child. And then like all of the adults I could care less about. The story itself is really interesting, so I kind of wish that it was done better, but I just didn't enjoy this, although I know a lot of people do. So if you know, are interested in it, it's basically about like a struggling photographer moves in with like a picture perfect family. Well, she rents like a cottage from them, and it's basically about how the daughter of the struggling photographer is watching the picture perfect family and experiencing them, and then the daughter of the picture perfect family is experiencing the photographer's life for the first time, and there's underlying like major drama that goes down. But to me, it just, I don't know. People We Meet on Vacation was my next one by Emily Henry. This one I gave a 4.5 out of 5. This was a friends to lovers situation, and it was kind of cool because, again, I don't normally like jumping timelines, but this one I really liked how they did it, because these friends have vacationed with each other for 10 years. They go on a summer vacation every year together, and so basically what it is it'll be like 10 years ago, and then today, and then 9 years ago, and then today, and then 8 years ago. So it like goes through all the vacations that they had, and like kind of like a timeline of their friendship. It was cheesy, but it wasn't cringy. It was funny. Like there was a lot of banter in there that was really good. And then there was some heartbreak that you're like, ah, but it was just a really enjoyable read. I enjoyed the ending, how it all tied up together. And it was kind of like one of those ones where it's like frustrating because it's like you just wish they would talk to each other because they're like getting in each other's way basically. But it ended up, I really enjoyed that book. I'm probably going to purchase it because I feel like it was funny enough that I'm going to want to reread it. The next one was Watching You by Lisa Jewell, and this one I gave a 4 out of 5. It's funny because I had tried this book last year, towards the end of last year, and I like could not get into it, and I am so happy that I re-picked it back up. I don't know if that made sense, that I picked it back up. This one had a good amount of characters where it didn't like overwhelm you, but it also made you like, you're not sure who's doing what type thing. Also, the author is very creative in this one because based on gender, you naturally jump to a conclusion. And that's all I can really say without spoilers. And she totally plays us on that. So it ended up being a twist that I didn't expect, which is always great. So I really enjoyed that one. The next one is another KRISTIN Hanna. This one's The Nightingale. I think this may be my favorite one from her. If I were to suggest how to read a KRISTIN Hanna book, I would suggest starting with The Four Winds, then going to The Great Alone, and then going to The Nightingale, the exact same way I did. Because I feel like The Four Winds, it like traps you in and makes you love her. The Great Alone makes you appreciate her even more. But I feel like if you started with that one, you might be kind of like, And then The Nightingale is just like, to me, it's just the best one. So I feel like it's just the, you know, you've reached the peak with her. But I don't know, because there's like 4, I think, other books of hers that I've got to read. So it could get better from here. Who knows? I put this book down and my husband was home. I had tears streaming down my face and I literally turned to him and I said, I am unwell. I literally said that to him. I felt like my heart had been sucked out of my chest and like my soul had exited my body. That's how I felt reading this book. There's not much I can say without giving spoilers, but basically it's the story of two sisters, again, during, I think, is it World War II or is it World War I? Pretty sure it's World War II. These two sisters could not be more different, on completely different paths in life, but the way that each of them help the situation during World War II, help their country, help other people, and the humility that they have and the modesty that people didn't even know how heroic they were. Knowing that there was women during World War II that were doing heroic acts like this, it breaks my heart, because the disrespect that women get, and knowing that there are women out there that are heroes that are just completely unrecognized for what they did, it breaks my heart. But these two sisters were just the most brave, unbelievable women, and like different in every way, but at the end of the day, their ability to rise in a situation was just, oh my God, it was just, I can't even talk, you guys. I can't even give a good review of that book, because again, my soul got sucked out. Okay, so then after that, again, I knew that I was gonna need a palate cleanser. So I read The Soulmate Equation by Christina Lauren. This one I gave a 4 out of 5. I really, really enjoyed this book. I had a smile on my face the entire time. And when I didn't have it, it was because her writing was really good and she got me frustrated by one of the characters' actions. So that's the only reason why I wasn't smiling. I wanted to like jump into the book and smack them on the face. Their writing style, so this Christina Lauren is actually two women, two authors. One is named Christina and one is named Lauren. Their banter in books is just so good. Like, the banter is just awesome. They also write realistic people. So I really love that. And every time I read one of their books, I just feel like I'm like hanging out with some friends, you know? I don't know how else to explain it. And the premise of the story is really interesting. It's revealed pretty quickly, but basically it's about like an app that takes your DNA and finds someone who you would have chemistry with based on your DNA, or companionship based on your DNA. So it's kind of like a dating app situation, but it was a little different. So I just thought that was really fun. Okay, we're doing good, guys. All right, next up we have The Girl in the Woods by Patricia MacDonald. This one I gave a 4 out of 5. I would say maybe like 3.75 out of 5. It was really fast paced, and it was a cold case, which I loved. Okay, so it wasn't actually a cold case, like by true definition of cold cases, because technically the murder had been solved, but something comes in to throw question to that, to it being solved. That didn't make any sense, but you guys get what I'm saying. So it's not a cold case, but it feels like a cold case. So it's like, I don't know how to explain it. The author really gets you like all the way until the end without revealing who might have done it. Like, she doesn't give you any of the clues to figure that part out until you're like almost all the way at the end. There were some parts that were a little repetitive for me. There's like this one character who's like kind of a D-bag, and it seems like the author is like really wants you to know what a D-bag that guy is, and it's like, okay, can we just move on already? But other than that, it was like really good. So I would recommend that. Okay, the next book was Home Before Dark, again by Riley Sager. Again, this was gothic and creepy, just like his other books. There were some strong female characters, which I really liked. It was definitely a page turner, and it was another one where there was like a mystery that was spanning generations, so I always like when that happens. The only thing, and it's hard to like say what I didn't like without giving a spoiler, so I'll just have to say that when you get to the end of the book, because of the way it was told, it's hard to determine what was real and what was fake. And I can't really elaborate on that more. But so when I got to the end, I was just confused as to, okay, so what of what I read was actually real, you know? The ending, again, with him, it left me wanting more. I felt like he doesn't ever resolve 100%. So it's kind of like, what's going on? I don't know if he's just trying to leave it open for interpretation or what, but maybe he just wants you to talk about him, you know? Okay, next up. This one I got from the library. The Hating Game by Sally Thorne. This one I gave a 4.25 out of 5. It's enemies to lovers. You already know that, like, that's not a spoiler because it's revealed very early on, but it was super fun. Also, the enemies to lovers situation is handled in a very slow fashion. There's a lot of like tension and pull and banter, and it was just really good. I was obsessed with the main characters. They balance each other out really, really well, and they, like, you know, a lot of times, like, with the enemies to lovers situation, you don't understand the hate. In this one, like, you really get the hate. So it's like, I don't know how to explain it without giving spoilers, but I just felt like the style of writing was so good. It's not a groundbreaking type of a situation. They work in a corporate office together and hate each other's guts. Like, we've seen a million Hallmark movies like that, but the style of writing made up for that. So 4.25. Also, it's apparently getting turned into a movie, and I can't wait to see who's casted. Okay, this next one, this is my fault. Nobody's told me to read this book. I just saw it at my library and it had Hallmark on it, so I felt like I needed to get it. I try to pick up like these cheesy rom-coms because I know after reading heavy ones that I need palate cleansers. So I picked this one up for that purpose. Mistletoe in Juneau by Dahlia Rose. This one I would give like 1.5 out of 5. And I feel awful for saying that, but it was so basic. There was barely a plot. I did not connect with the characters. I enjoy cheesy, easy reads, but this wasn't even cheesy. It was just like bland. So that was a no. It was a no for me. Okay, this next one was Rock, Paper, Scissors by Alice Feeney. This one was another one that I saw on book pages and on my friends' pages. This book was creepy. It had like, I don't even know how to explain it. Kind of like a spooky, like paranormal type vibe to it. You don't know what's happening. They're in like a gothic old chapel out in Scotland or something. It's a married couple and you hate them. At least I did. I hated both of them. But I was so sucked in to finding out what happens. And I had a feeling what was going to happen, but I wasn't 100% sure, and it did not pan out the way that I thought it was going to. There were some parts that were pretty unrealistic. Like when you read it, you're gonna, well, if you read it, you're gonna understand. But the suspense made up for that fact. Like, we're reading a book, okay? Not all of the things are gonna be like super neat and organized, okay? But it was a little unrealistic at parts, I will say that. In case you're wondering what I'm doing over here, I have my Goodreads review up because I wanna remember, you know, details. Because I read a lot, so it's like, okay, next up was The Good Left Undone by Adriana Trigiani. We already know I'm not good at pronouncing things, so just forgive me. This one was a 4 out of 5 for me. This one I have not seen anybody else talk about, which is kind of surprising because it's a World War II novel, and I feel like a lot of people like World War II novels like me. Normally I need like a page turner. Like I needed to be fast paced. I need to like get sucked in. This book did not do that. It was slow, very slow build. The detailing though was exquisite, and it's about an Italian woman. Actually, it's about multiple generations of Italian women. And what I loved about this book is that I felt like, just based on the Italian women that I know in my life, it was very genuine to the culture because the women were incredibly bold and incredibly strong. And they were like ahead of their time, but at the same time, they still have that traditional family vibe to them where they're respectful, but they're bold. I don't know if I'm explaining that right. If you know Italian people, you know what I'm talking about, okay? It just felt very genuine. So I loved the way the culture was discussed in this book. I loved being in Italy in this book. I felt like I was there. And the women that are in this book, it's another one of those like unsung heroes type situation. It was just so good. And it was kind of like about younger generations discovering how their older generation women were unsung heroes. So if you are looking for one that's like not heart racing, edge of your seat type book, I would recommend this. I just really enjoyed it. And if you're Italian or you know somebody who's Italian, you should read it. Next up, this one is a series. There's 8 books altogether. You probably know the Bridgerton show. on Netflix. So I had watched season 1 of Bridgerton. I have not seen season 2 yet. So before I watched season 2, I was like, oh, I should go read the books. So the first book is The Duke and I, Bridgerton series #1. This book focuses on Daphne and Simon, which is the majority of season 1 on the Netflix show. So I finished the book, and when I first put it down, I initially was like, oh, that's like a 4.5. But then I kind of like sat on it for a second, and I realized that I did not enjoy the way they made Daphne in that book. I think I preferred her on the TV show. In the book, she starts off really, really strong-willed and ahead of her time. And then I feel like by the end, she gets like kind of desperate and clingy, and she's like, she does the crazy stuff she does in the TV show, but the way that it's detailed, I felt like was not great. I did, however, prefer the book to the show. Like overall, there were certain parts where like the ending, I liked Daphne better in the show, but overall I enjoyed the book more. I enjoyed that I got to just spend time with Daphne and Simon, whereas on the show, it's more like background noise because they're trying to fill in the other family members. And I really am glad that I read it because, or I'm glad that I watched the show first because I feel like I could put faces to names, so it made me enjoy the book even more because I had like a visual, you know? So that was The Duke and I by Julia Quinn, I think I forgot to say. So then next I read #2 in the series, The Viscount Who Loved Me. I don't know if I'm saying that word right. Also by Julia Quinn. This is #2 in the series. This one focuses on Anthony, and basically it's kind of like an enemies to lovers situation. So it's similar to the first book because I feel like Daphne and Simon kind of had like that banter going on between them. So Anthony has a similar situation happening with a girl in this book. But I felt like the banter was way better. I gave this one a 4 out of 5. The other one I gave a 3.5. I had a smile on my face the majority of this novel because it was kind of like a rom-com with the hilarious like banter that was going between them. I was obsessed with the main heroine, if you will, of the book. And I really liked Anthony too. So I like Anthony, and the girl's name is Kate. I enjoy those two better than I enjoy Daphne and Simon for sure. So I liked book 2 better than I liked book 1. Then I took a break from that series and I went to Reckless Girls by Rachel Hawkins. This one I gave a 4 out of 5. This one I kept seeing popping up on my Instagram from a bunch of people. It was a major page turner. This one was like a mystery on a yacht situation again, except it wasn't really a yacht. It was more like a charter boat, if you will. I knew that there was a connection happening. I kind of had an idea, but I couldn't figure out like the direction that it was coming from. And then once it's finally like there, it doesn't disappoint. I didn't like the characters at all, but the story was, it was creepy. Like there's like a deserted island situation happening, and there's like some World War II creepy things that had happened on that deserted island. So it kind of makes you like, you don't know if there's like a paranormal situation happening or if it's just straight up like a murder mystery type thing. So it was fun. It was just a fun read. I really liked that. Okay, the next one that I read, this one was Reminders of Him by Colleen Hoover. This one I gave a 4 out of 5. It was probably like a solid like 4.25. It wasn't just a 4. I had only read Verity by Colleen Hoover, so I went in thinking that I was going to get a thriller because Verity is like a suspenseful thriller, creepy vibes. This one was nothing like that. There was no creepiness to it whatsoever. It was just a messy and complicated situation. This is not a spoiler because it's revealed early in the book. There's a woman who had gone to prison due to a car accident that happened, and it's basically the story of her trying to meet her daughter. She gave birth to the baby when she was in prison, and the baby got taken away immediately from her. So it's about her, you know, trying to get in the baby's life. So as a mom, it was like really heartbreaking to read. It was like about grief and love and motherhood and just all the things. There were some parts, the reason why I don't give it a full 5 is because the end, there's some unrealistic parts that you're like, okay, legally, I don't know if that would have happened. But I couldn't stop thinking about it for a couple days after I read it because it was that good. Okay, then I went to Back to the Bridgerton series, I went to An Offer from a Gentleman, Bridgerton's number 3. This one, again, like the first book, I gave a 3.5. This was basically Cinderella. You realize that really early on, so that's not a spoiler. But it was a different setting of Cinderella, and so it was fun. I really love the Bridgerton characters, and I really love the mom, and this book makes you love the mom even more because she ends up like stepping up and being like a total boss in this book, so I really enjoyed that. The whole like Cinderella situation, the way the injustice plays out, it's just the perfect amount of frustrating for you. So it was like intriguing and frustrating, and it just grabs you, so I really enjoyed that book. But I did not enjoy the two, like the romance that was happening. I didn't enjoy either of those people. I just didn't. Okay, next one was, now remember, when I give rom-coms a rating, it's usually, you know, take it with a grain of salt because it's more lenient. This one was Life's Too Short, The Friend Zone number 3 by Abby Jimenez. So I read this not realizing that this was part of a series, but you don't need to worry about that because I don't even understand how this is a series because I stepped into something brand new. So I don't know if like somebody in the background maybe was part of the other books. So we're gonna find out because I gave this a 5 out of 5. So I will definitely be reading more of her books. This is literally what my review says. Someone punched me in the face. I wrote that. I said someone punched me in the face in my review. I picked this one up after having read Reminders of Him and Reckless Girls and all that and the Bridgerton stuff, and I was like, I want like a lighthearted rom-com. And if you see the bright yellow beautiful cover of this, you think that it's going to be that. It ends up not being that. It is a rom-com for sure, but it's based on like a very heavy situation, and the whole time you don't know what's happening and you're just like bracing yourself for impact basically. I laughed, I cried, I wanted to be best friends with all the characters. The characters were phenomenal. The main girl character, I'm in love with her. Like, I'm just in love with her. So anyway, so this was number 3, but I feel like you could just go read it. If like I made you want to read that, go read it right now, if you can, okay? The next up one, this one was The Road Trip by Beth O'Leary. So again, I was like, okay, well, I didn't get my lighthearted read from the Life's Too Short that I was expecting. So let me pick this one up. So this one, I gave a 3.5 out of 5. I don't know if I already said that. It was really slow to start, and it of course had unexpected heavy stuff happening. And I was just like, I just want a lighthearted rom-com, you guys, like, come on. But the heavy topic did give it a lot of depth. It gave a lot of depth to the characters. It was, the only part that I didn't like was that there was like 2 kind of social classes happening. The dude is kind of like a rich spoiled boy, and then the girl is kind of like working class, family type person. It was interesting seeing how they balance each other out, but I just couldn't stand most of his friends and most of the scenarios that he gets himself in. It just bothered me, and I just felt like realistically, I think she would have booted him a little earlier. But I did like how there was an element of second chances, not just between the romance, but also between some of his friends. They ended up needing second chances. So there was like a forgiving situation happening, and there was a lot of character development. They do work on themselves, even though they're like rich boys. They do put the work in. So I liked it. It was definitely worth the read. And it wasn't as heavy as Life's Too Short, but there's trigger warning for sexual abuse. So just be aware of that. Last one we're going to talk about. I finished this morning. Actually, that's a lie, but I'll explain it in a second. This one is Tell Me Everything, The Story of a Private Investigation by Erica Krause. I didn't even finish this book. I gave up, which for me, that's a lot to say. Will I ever pick it back up? Probably not. It's not like the other one. I gave this a full 2/3 of the book. I went like all the way to here. I gave it a lot of my life. This one, I would give a 1 out of 5, okay? Listen to this title right here. The Story of a Private Investigation. So you think it's the story of a private investigation. This screams true crime, right? I thought this was going to be a true crime novel. I picked it out for my Book of the Month Club. Could have probably got something better. But instead, it's more of like a memoir about the author, so it's like a true story. She changes names and stuff, but I think the story is based on the University of Colorado versus Lisa Simpson. If you want to look, I think that's the correct name, if you want to look up the actual true crime. But it's trigger warnings about sexual abuse. It's a high profile case. She's a private investigator working for an attorney who is taking on a civil case, and the person's name in this book is Simone, who was victim of sexual assault. And it's basically like the PI and how she contributed to the case, but I feel like she was like overinflating herself in terms of how she contributed. And it was like she would like talk highly about herself, like she was like the groundbreaker of the case, but then the attorney would specifically come back, which she talks about in this book, and saying like, I don't need that because we're focusing on this direction and you're like over here. And she kept doing it, but she kept talking about herself like she was like, it was just irritating. And the actual case that she's working on probably could have taken up only like 50 pages. She could have got us all the details of that case in 50 pages. But instead, she wants to give us her dating life. I don't need to know about your dating life. And then also she's like sprinkling in super vague, undetailed situations from her childhood. And I'm just like, just talk about it already or don't talk about it. I don't know. So anyways, I gave it a good 2/3 of this book and then I just gave up. So not a great way to end April, but that's okay. We have some good things coming. So, oops. I have a pile here of the books that I want to read in the month of May. Let me start with my library books. These are going to be due May 5th, so I need to read these in the next like 4 days. So the first one is Frederick Bachman, or Bachman, I don't know, and it's called Anxious People. I don't even know what it's about. This is one of those ones where I just blindly picked it up because someone posted on Instagram that it was good. Sally Hepworth, The Good Sister. Again, don't know what it's about, but I saw this on one of my favorite Instagrams. She said this author is amazing and this was her favorite from her. Little Secrets by Jennifer Hillier. Again, no idea what it's about. Just picked it up because of that. I don't know if I want to trust Colleen Hoover after what she did to me with reminders of him, but I still got the sticker on this one. Oh well. This one is It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover. Don't know what it's about. Picked it up because it was in Costco or Sam's Club. I don't remember which one. This one, Cuckoo's Calling by Robert Galbraith, which we know is actually J.K. Rowling. We don't think we like her anymore, but I picked it up anyway. And apparently this is really good, and I'm gonna need to just go ahead and get myself the next books in the series, so I'll probably order those before I finish that. And then I got this book and I had started it and then kind of forgot it existed. This is Joyful by Ingrid Fettel Lee. The Surprising Power of Ordinary Things to Create Extraordinary Happiness. So I started this book and I actually did like it because it's basically just a bunch of short stories about things that make somebody happy and like how you can live your life just focusing on the little things. So those are some of the books that I want to read in the month of May. And then I was gonna hop on here real quick and tell you, because I have some digital books that are in my queue, if you will, on my library app. I talked about it in my last book, but if you guys don't already have a library card, please go get yourself a library card, okay? I know that it's 2022 and you're like, why would I get a library card? Read the books and then if you like it, then own it. You know what I mean? Like, I get that some people want to have a library. I do. Like, I want to own books and I want to like be able to go back and visit them and spend time with my favorite characters. But sometimes you'll like really think that you're going to love a book and then you end up not loving it. So like, why waste your money? You know, so you can go to the library, get them for free. And then I'm a physical book girl through and through, but sometimes ebooks are just very convenient. And if it's going to get you to read, then get the Libby app and download some ebooks for yourself, because I'm telling you right now, you might find yourself like, wow, I'm really enjoying this. Okay, so right now in my queue, I have The Last Thing He Told Me by Laura Dave. No idea what that's about. And then my man, Barack Obama, A Promised Land. It finally became available, so I'll be reading that one soon. A Gentleman in Moscow by Amor Tolls. I don't know what it's about, but a bunch of people posted that one. The 5 a.m. Club by Robin Sharma. I don't even know why I want to read this because I wake up at 5 a.m. anyway, but it's basically about like owning your mornings and getting your life together. Sadiqa Johnson, Yellow Wife. Kate Quinn, Black Widows. I don't know what any of these are about. Abby Jimenez, the Happy Ever After playlist. This is the first in the supposed series from Life's Too Short that I talked about earlier. And then last but not least is, again, Amor Tolls The Lincoln Highway. Also don't know what that's about. Also saw that it posted. And then the other one that I want to try, okay, and then I also have my book of the month coming. And I'm really excited about that because I got Part of Your World by Abby Jimenez. Not part of a series, I don't think. I think that's a standalone. And then I had a free credit, so I picked up The Four Winds, which I've already read by KRISTIN Hanna, but I wanted to own it. That's how much I liked it. And then I think the other book that I'm going to try to read this month is The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo or something like that by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I also downloaded an audiobook, which is Daisy Jones and the Six, also by Taylor Jenkins Reid, but I can't do audiobooks. I tried. This one is definitely a better audiobook because there's 7 actors, like actual like famous actors that are reading the book. So it's like a little easier to follow because you have multiple characters. But I just can't do audiobooks. I'm gonna try though. I downloaded Audible because there was like a 3-month free promotion or something. So I downloaded it and I was like, well, I might as well get like 3 months of free books. Why not? I mean, you only get 1 credit per month, but 3 free audiobooks, why not? So that was the one that I picked because I was trying to get myself into audiobooks because the library app lets you download audiobooks for free as well. So I was thinking I just got to get myself into it just like I had to get myself into ebooks. But I don't know. I just can't do it. John and I were doing a puzzle the other night and I was trying to have us both listen to the book and it was good, but I'm just not sucked in. So I don't know if I'm going to read that book maybe instead of do the audio version. We don't know what's going to happen, okay? The future is unclear. But that is it. That is everything. Was there something that I read that I reviewed and you don't agree with me? Let me know down below. Let me know if there's something that you think I should read. Historical fiction, thriller, and rom-com. Those are my 3 jams. Thank you so much for joining me as I talk about these books. I am obsessed with reading. I cannot get enough, so I appreciate you hanging out with me while I talk about this. I hope you all have a wonderful month of May and find some books that you enjoy as well. Bye!